Hello and welcome. My name is Kathleen Hanagan, and I am your host for Conversations with Co-Creators of a New World. Yes, we are co-creating a new world, and it's happening now. It's happening in our hearts and in our consciousness, and it's a beautiful thing. And today I have someone very special I'd like to introduce to you. Her name is Charlon Bobo, and she is the amazing woman who has helped me get this far in birthing my book. She has been my editor. I'm going to read a little bit about this amazing woman to you. Let's see, pull up your bio. Charlon is a fiery, unicorn-riding, Joan of Arc-esque subversive of all things, blindly unquestioned or unexamined, manipulative, head in the sand, or sustaining of the status quo. You can see why she's been a good editor for me. Willing to report from inside the belly of the beast of personal transformation, or stand barefoot in the stream of demonstration so others can find their way. Charlon is an impassioned revolutionary drawing from personal, professional, spiritual, and intuitive wellsprings of experience to empower all women toward becoming their most potent selves. Providing Charlon's fertile foundation is 30 plus years of personal exploration toward potency and extensive writing on revolutionary and evolutionary topics, and 15 plus years of professional experience, including editing, copywriting, proofwriting, entrepreneurship, ghostwriting, online marketing expertise, and honing the art of spiritual language as it applies to sovereign business marketing. When she is not holding up a mirror so others can see their brilliance, Charlon travels extensively to satiate her wanderlust. Yay, I love to travel. I knew we had that in common from the beginning. She enjoys the many benefits of simple, sustainable coastal living, including walking in the forest, reading, cooking, baking, soap making, and supporting her local farmers markets and independent movie theater. Charlon lives and thrives from her hometown of Santa Cruz, California. Welcome, Charlon. Welcome.
Thank you, Kathleen. It's a true pleasure to be here,
yes,
having this New World conversation.
It is. It's such a beautiful thing. And I want to say a little bit about how I found you, because it was kind of magical. I had another editor and things weren't working out, and I knew it, and I could feel it, and I trusted that feeling. I doubted, and then I trusted, and then I doubted, and I trusted, and then I finally trusted. And I told a friend whose book you had edited, Pat Farrow. And when I told Pat of my dilemma, she said, call me, we'll talk. And I did. And then she said, you need to get in touch with Charlon. And I said, okay. It's like I got my marching orders. And that's how I found you, through another sister. And our co-creative process just blossomed at that point. I'll let you take it from there.
Well, I was just going to interject that her book is called Sacred Marching Orders. Mm-hmm. And that was the first project on which she and I worked together. And I distinctly remember, as I was editing that book, I don't know why the inspiration, but there are many moments when you know what to do and you just act. And I purchased a pair of combat boots. That was, I'll mention this later, circa the year of my birth, 1965. And as I was in the process of creation, and as in those moments of, I don't know how this is going to unfold, but just sticking with it, I would put on those combat boots and I would march around my living room. And the activation of the solar feminine is when that happened. So I just wanted to add to and enhance what you're talking about.
Yes, yes, and that's the piece I'm going to read about today, the solar feminine, because it was actually through Pat, who wrote about the solar feminine, and I found Pat by Googling the solar feminine like 8 years before, right? So I think of all the ways this has happened, and Pat, very few people have written a good deal about the solar feminine, mm-hmm. and Pat is one of them. And I have a part of the book that I'm going to read, my book, that really lets people know what that's about. And it's important because We see it now everywhere. We see evidence of it in the Me Too movement and what happened in the past few weeks. And it is the energy that will make a difference on this planet right now. And men have the solar feminine too. So it's not just about women, though the women are the carriers of it. So let me read that piece. For a woman, fully embodying her solar feminine nature has been a huge challenge, requiring great courage. Because women have been conditioned to identify with the lunar feminine, when they attempt to express their solar energy, they may model after the solar masculine, which wreaks havoc with their inner lives and relationships. They push too hard and drive their lives and their health into the ground. I see evidence of this imbalance in my office every day, as driven women with passive men sit on my couch and tell of their misery. The ensuing battle within every woman has been even more painful than the battle between the sexes. It's really important. Mm-hmm. In truth, the first step is putting an end to the war between the nurturing and receptive qualities of her lunar feminine and the fierce and fiery qualities of her solar feminine. She must first learn to integrate these two. She must then balance the protective and holding qualities of her lunar masculine energies and the driving and ruthless qualities of her solar masculine energies. This is the shadow work being asked of all of us today. It's the only real solution to relationship struggles. And I know you know what I mean. It's a big battle, and that's one of the pieces of work you're doing right now with women, is helping them step into that energy.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell our listeners how you came to that new work in your life. I mean, I know you've been coming to it always, as we all are, but that's your most recent work. Love to hear about it.
It is, and it is the emphasis on potency. And my passion has always been related to women, and I'm not excluding men in this conversation, but the message right now for me is to engage with women and to emphasize, well, you know, the topic today is for women, potency is power. And the word potency is something that I've been doing for the last 53 years. My entire path has been about becoming that full, authentic expression. And like from so many of us, we have diminished by societal expectations, familial expectations, religious expectations, cultural, all of those impressions, they lend themselves to us not being our most authentic, full selves. And so potency is about reclaiming all of those components of us that we have disowned by all of those influences I just mentioned. And reclaiming all of that, embracing all of that, bringing that home. There is a sacred homecoming that needs to happen of these qualities that we have denied and suppressed and have said, no, that can't live in me because this person doesn't like it. In my society, that's not going to, how can I thrive in this society if I don't diminish that aspect of myself?
It's even true that when girls are growing up, if they are in an all-girls school, this doesn't happen, but if they're in a mixed school, as soon as puberty hits, they're not as smart. It's not that they're not as smart, it's that they start to dumb down. And
absolutely.
There's research on it, and that I can't be that girl that the guys like and want and be really smart at the same time. And it's interesting because I always was smart and I never did that. And I didn't find that it diminished, me being liked by boys, to tell you the truth. But I never thought to do that. But I did see it happen, and I know the studies. and it's not men's fault. It's not boys' fault. It's not.
And so much of this, it's not about identifying where there should be placed blame. It's not about that at all. It's simply identifying, acknowledging, and like I said, embracing these facets of ourselves. And it goes back much further than, I think it starts in infancy. I mean, when I was reading your book, there was an activation within me, and there were pinpoints in infancy in my own experience. Mm-hmm. You're too exuberant. Your light is too bright. Yeah. You can't thrive if you know, and it's all of these, you know, influences of conditioning. Yeah. How are you, kind of like, you know, your primary caregivers, how are you going to survive if you'll be crushed by life? So tone it down, shut it down, diminish. Yeah. And pretty soon it doesn't take any influence for us to have taken on that role, and we do that ourselves. Yeah. So for myself, I can speak to being in environments, in social situations, and having this amazing gift of knowing how much of myself do I walk in as my exuberant, fiery, authentic self. Do I walk in as a 10? Well, very rarely in my life until recently have I been able to do that, where it doesn't matter anymore what's going on in the environment. It's imperative that I be my full authentic expression.
So true.
And that's the message for all of us. And I would love to have the 1, 2, 3 magical steps for you to implement, or, you know, for any your watchers. And that's not how it goes. It's such an individual path.
It really is.
I can simply plant the seed that there is a potency within you that has not been reclaimed, and you get curious about that, your path will open up in front of you. I don't have the answers for you. I'm not a guru. I'm not a master. I'm not someone to give your power to. I'm a person who has walked this journey, been so devoted to it, and I can so relate to what you were saying earlier about you trust and you worry, you trust and you're not sure, and you trust and you just keep going back to trust. And for me, it was a return over and over again to surrender.
Surrender. Yeah.
Surrender.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, what now? You're worried. Surrender. Mm-hmm. Surrender. You're not sure how it's going to work out. Okay, surrender. That was always the invitation. And I think of that as divine grace. It was always there in my awareness. Ooh, I have a choice to surrender. Yeah. And we forget.
We forget that, like, it's the opposite, really, Charlon, of the message of, you know, puff the chest out, you know, with your drive and your success drive, go, 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 go for it, grab the brass ring. That's the message, right? And we're saying, surrender, surrender. It's like, it's totally subversive to the culture that we're
absolutely. Yes.
And subversive. Yeah.
I had an inspiration a while ago to write about the counter-habitual action.
Counter-habitual.
And so what I decided to do was just, and I'm motivated by play and practice and trying things. Yeah. So I just wanted to play with this notion, and every time I would feel the impulse come up of something like fake it till you make it, because we hear a lot about that too, right?
Yes.
That never left me feeling anything other than being a fraud. And I'm not that. And most of us are not that. But it leaves us feeling that way. So I would just practice doing the counter-habitual thing, whatever it was that was in front of me. If my conditioning was to do this, then I was going to do that. And I would just see what happened. And it was so fun. And that bumped me out of, it bumped me out of acting subconsciously.
No, I love it. It's a practice, and that's what practices are. They're practices that are upgrades from our habitual actions, right? Yes. And so yours, which was maybe to pull back, you'd move toward, right? You do the opposite thing.
Well, right. And for me, it's the opposite. I'm an Aries. I am the fire.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I would diminish and suppress and say the world isn't ready for you on a 10. The sparkle meter, I'm at a 10. That's my nature. And I would go, oh, how about a 5? Would that work for everyone in the room? Would that make you feel comfortable and safe? And so for me, leaning in is the easy and charging. That's why I say Joan of Arc. Mm-hmm. That's my nature. I know that. I thrive in that. I love that.
Yeah.
It is not my nature to sit back and let something unfold.
Yeah.
It is not my nature. So I was doing maybe the opposite of what other people do. Mm-hmm. But it was what was right for me. So it doesn't matter whether you're someone who is much more passive and you'll lean back and it's not your nature to lean in to life. Just do the opposite and play with it. Life is a game. It can be so fun.
Yeah. Experiment is the key. A great tantra teacher I once had said that all life is an experiment. It's all an experiment. Like nobody is really an expert in this.
No.
We're all experimenting. And when that freed me up. Because even in the worst of times, I thought, well, this is an experiment and having a really bad time,
Exactly.
And it's so, I know that one of the things you and I talked a lot about, because I wrote a lot about it, and then you wrote back to me, your reflections as you were reading about, and I say right from the start in the book, that the love seed, that kernel of infinity, really, of infinite light and potential and goodness that's at the center of our being, that it needs to be watered and it needs sunlight. It's not just going to grow if it doesn't have that, and then it gets buried in everybody.
Sure.
Just to survive, even in a great family, it gets buried because we have, school, the culture, church, everything else that's sending the message to keep it covered, right? And as I said, that the light and the sunshine and the water that seed needs is the mirroring, the healthy mirroring in the beginning by the parents, and then later by other mentors, other teachers, other beings who can see past the persona into the essence of the person. And you just really responded to that, which was a great mirror to me, because I know that I've been doing it my whole adult life, in my career. And that's what you are offering now to people, to be that mirror so that women can become more potent. And I want to just talk to us about that mirroring that you're doing.
Well, what happened as a result of me editing your book? So I wear 2 hats when I'm on the projects that I'm privileged to have my hands in and my energy in. I've been invited in. And so I do an editing function, which is very left brain, but I'm also very much engaged in the right, aligning the energetics of the words, aligning it to the mission of the author. And there's a third thing that happens. The soul being of Charlon is taking in the information. I'm putting it through my own filter, finding a place in my world, in my inner landscape for this material that I'm so privileged to be exposed to. And that's what happened with the mirroring. I have done that myself my entire life. Wow. And I didn't realize that it wasn't because I'm trying to fake being a ball of sunshine and that I can find the silver lining in anything and everything. And that's the thing that people say about me, like it's maybe it's manufactured, that it's not, it's an effort on my part. And I attest to the fact that is just not the truth.
That's your essence.
It is my essence. It is my love seed. I don't try at this at all.
Yeah.
And so your book, Love Seed, gave me the language to identify what I have done my entire life and how potent that is. And I didn't have that languaging. I mean, many months ago, probably a year ago, I embarked on the journey of what is the language that captures what I do? And, you know, when people are searching for their purpose, it's loose concepts and it's generalities, and it's, well, what language do I assign to it? How do I market that? And it can be, I mean, that is definitely a part of the journey of discovering your purpose. Yes, and so your book, Love Seed, crystallized that for me, in that I could go, oh, I've done that my entire life. I didn't know that was even a thing, because our gifts come so effortlessly to us. We think that's not really that important, because if I can do it, anyone can do it. But that's not true.
Oh, no, that's not true. That's so not true.
That's so not true.
That is, I mean, you know, I call it your dharma, right, in the book. Like, your dharma, you know, this was a quote from somebody I had read. Your dharma is so close to you, you could spit at it, right? That it's so close, what you do, and yet you're saying that the book was a mirror to you of what you do.
Yes.
And
yes.
That what you've been good at and what your dharma is mirroring. I mean, just think, I now know what real editing, like what's required of the editing process, because you're the first person that I ever had that full experience with. And it's like, it's a very, I mean, it's intimate, like, you know, like, did you mean this? Did you mean that? Did you mean, like, what are you really trying to say? And you're trying to be clear with me. I'm trying to be clear with you. We're going back and forth. It's all about mirroring, right?
Yes.
And we're using language to do it. You know, when I dance, we do a dance of a mirror sometimes, where just you don't say anything, but you mirror with the body. There are a lot of ways to do it, but language is you know, for both of us, the most potent way that we do it, right? And so I was, as you were receiving your gifts, I was receiving the gift of you mirroring me and what I meant. That is the co-creative process.
Truly.
That is the co-creative process. And it can happen. I mean, it happens a lot. Like, I help couples do it, because they're like speaking past each other, and then they finally realize what they're each trying to say, and they mirror, and they actually get each other. And everybody always cries then too, because it's so sweet, because it's what we long for. Because we're these magnificent beings, and we come into these little bodies, and then we just need to be mirrored for who we are. But our light is so vast that our parents can never mirror us fully.
Yes.
Right? And it does go back to infancy, but it's never too late. You know, you can have a mirror. Like, that's what the women that will be working with you, they're looking for, that the mother mirror to their potency, right? You know, the person who can fill in the gaps in their development of their authenticity, of their authentic selves. And we need that.
It's one component. And part of that mirroring is to say, hey, have you looked at this disowned aspect of yourself, and have you embraced that? And people think you can leapfrog over, well, I don't need to go visit that because that was many years ago. I don't need to revisit that because it's not really impacting me right now. But those moments or decades where we diminished, when we were participating because that was an adaptation, and it was important for us to do that to be able to function in our society. That has changed so much now, and there's a much more welcoming environment for us to step into our full, like I say, our full, authentic, potent expression as people. And so just posing a question to someone, or hey, have you I can seem to hear the things that are not spoken, so we can have an awareness of ourselves of, yes, I really did shut down my light when I was 3 when this happened, and they'll tell the story. And there is some element that I pick up on that kind of like the missing piece. And I say, you know what, I'm really getting, and I love, like we're doing right now, I love to follow the invisible thread because it always leads somewhere magical. It leads to the illumination of something really important. Otherwise, it would not present itself. Yeah. And I happen to be, and you are in your profession, in the most privileged position to be able to have that. For me, it's a felt sense. I'm clairsentient. So my experience of life is that I feel life. And I will zero into that something and be able to illuminate it and point to it. And the person can look and say, whoa, oh, I didn't realize blah, 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 blah. And something in them, you see it and you feel, I feel it. It's their moment. It's their emancipation moment. And then they're free. And then, oh my gosh, then what is possible for them? Then they just touched into the infinite. They just pressed into it maybe for the first time. And it's not me because I can point to it. But if someone isn't willing or able to take ownership of it and say, ooh, wow, I do really need to go deeper into that rabbit hole and know more about that and bring, embracing is such a key component to this. It's embracing those lost aspects of self and saying, you are welcome here. What do you want to tell me about me? How do you want to inform me? Because you know what? I'm paying attention now. I'm listening now. I want you here. I will no longer relegate you to the basement of my life.
Right. And the basement symbolically is the unconscious, right?
Yes.
I'm no longer going to keep you unconscious.
Yes.
You know, and that it's shadow work. It's really what it is. It's the shadow work.
What it is.
I mean, I wrote a lot about shadow work in the book, and I named it that because, and people, and I did too. I had this quite a while back. I shifted somehow, but people get afraid of shadow work. They think it's all, about the deep and dark disowned stuff, the ugly stuff, the shame. They think it's about shame. There's gold in them, our shadows. There's gold in the unconscious. There's your creativity. A lot of times is there. There's often your sexuality, your potency, all the things that weren't okay to be above board. Yes, there can be some dark stuff there too. And it all has to be embraced and literally taken back in, brought back home. And it's very intimate work. And to have someone who's going to be in the role of your mirror, which is often attributed to a therapist, but it could be a coach like yourself, you want to make sure that you resonate. And that's the best word I can come up with, that you, like, the old word would be click, but it'd be like that you resonate with that person. Yes. And it is a felt sense. And that's why whenever I have a first session with people, I say, let me know and think about it if you want to come back, because if there's that resonance, then when you point out, person's more likely to go, yeah, as opposed to, well, no, that doesn't matter. But that happens too, right? As you said, it's freezing. Yeah.
Sure. And a person's response to something I've said, something you said, because my ego is not engaged, because my personality is, I have no agenda. No personal agenda, meaning that I'm not attached if you do or don't look at anything. I'm here as one tool among many, and there may or may not be resonance, but you know what? I trust absolutely that person will know, and I will continue to point that person to themselves to be able to hold up their own mirror to say, what do I really feel about this person, this experience, or that job interview, or in my relationship with my children? Be aware of your own inner landscape. And that's the importance of being a mirror. It's not, okay, I'll see you for the next, year. weekly for the next whatever period of time. You don't need me.
Yeah.
You won't need me because I want to empower you. If that's my agenda, it is for you to hold up the mirror to yourself, to where you are self-sourced. You know what you feel, you know what you think and why, you know what you're drawn to, and that you can trust.
Yeah.
You may not be able to trust me for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Whatever, the person you're bringing to me, if that person doesn't trust as a way of being, I'm not going to penetrate that, but that's not my role. I don't have to take that on.
Yeah. A long time ago, I think it was in some maybe a clinical supervision training or something. A very wise teacher said to me, a therapist said, if you are working harder than the people that you're working with, stop it. Like, wait a minute, you cannot do this for them. That really helped me. Now, I must say, and I know you do, you work hard, right, with people.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if they're not, it's all free will. It's all,
yes.
It's always a choice.
Yes.
And it's, I even, in the very beginning of the book, I share a story about a couple I worked with in the 90s, a long time ago. And I think I was working harder than he was. But I had some regret about it, and I write about in the book that he made no progress. He stayed like that. And I gave up. But the thing is, he kept coming. And now I know in my wisdom, if I had just, as long as he was coming, there was still a part of him that was available.
Absolutely.
And that I gave up. And so I think when we're in the role of being a mentor or a coach, a mirror for somebody, one of the greatest gifts we can give them is that we continue to believe in them even when they don't. And it's up to them what they do with that, but that we not give up on people even when they've given up on themselves, because that could be a very temporary state that they're in. So I've learned, I don't give up on people anymore.
Right. And you can hold the languaging I use and the way it works for me is I uphold the vision for the highest and the best for that person. Yeah. And I will bring and do my best, but I know where I end and where someone else begins. Yes. When their investment is required, it is not my business.
Yeah.
And I talk a lot about, this has just been very recent in my own world, about staying in my lane. It's imperative for me to stay in my own lane and occupy that.
Yes.
And that's my business.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to, I think, to be pointing things out in other people when we haven't been asked or invited, to be, all out there. When it's not our business, is a distraction from looking in our own mirror. Yeah. Because that's where the hard work is, right? But that's where the greatest investment will get to the gold and the gems that you were talking about. This is where my attention needs to be. I'm a full-time job. I can't be bothered even thinking with that, the weight of the thought that I could do something for someone else or be something. No, I'm just here to be myself. And if you need a reflection, I'll hold the mirror. But as alongside me being a mirror for others, I'm doing that with myself all the time.
Yeah. We have to. Do you ever do that powerful exercise where you look into your own eyes in the mirror? Yeah. And I call it mirror work, really. And it's, if you get confused, look into your left eye, because it's the more receptive eye, and to look. And I give that assignment to many, many people. And everybody cries. And every time I do it, I cry.
Yes.
Because even when you deeply even when I say even, especially when you deeply see yourself, your heart opens.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and if your heart hasn't opened, you haven't seen yourself yet.
Yes.
You know, you're still stuck in looking at wrinkles or something like that, you know.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
And that heart opening then, well, when you look in the mirror and you really see yourself, that is one of the greatest gifts we can give to those parts of us that you know, that just for whatever reason we disowned or we suppressed. It's all okay, and that can shift. And these seemingly simple exercises of, say, looking in the mirror and looking for yourself, seeking out your essence, seeking your love seed in the mirror. What a wonderful exercise and a practice.
It's a beautiful practice. It's in fact, you may see an angry adolescent, you may see a little girl, you may see a sexy lover. You can see the different parts of yourself. Yeah. And practicing that, you can then see those things in others.
Absolutely. And it's something that's coming into my awareness is that these practices, I think it's important for them to be lived experience. Who's going to listen to me or listen to you if these are theories, if these are just ideas that, well, you know, I don't know what works because I haven't lived this myself and I'm not practicing what I preach, but maybe you should. No. Lived experience of potency has an emanation. And that emanation, as that pools out, people will pick up on it. And they go, oh, potency, that's an interesting word. How and where do I compromise my own potency? Where are those elements in myself that I want to go retreat and pick up and love and embrace and hold close and expand? So lived experience is really important.
Yeah. Do you have any, like a mantra or a nugget of wisdom or a little something that you could leave our viewers with after this amazing and juicy conversation on potency?
What I would reflect to anyone watching is that it is in you. It may be a matter of just acknowledging that fact. It may be going on the search for it, but it is there. And it is embedded in these little pockets of not you. Those adaptations we have taken on as, oh, my mom did that, or my family taught me, or my religion taught me to, blah, 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 blah. But is that really you? It is in us. It didn't go anywhere. That love seed is within. And as I feel into that in each person, it's waiting to be reclaimed. And that can happen anytime in the way that's right for you, in any small way or a quantum leap, it doesn't matter. But you can begin that journey right now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Back to the seed. Back to the seed. Thank you, Charlon. I love the 10 of you, right? Yeah. I love it. And, you know, as someone who's been accused of being too intense, I embrace the intensity of both of us.
Thank you, as do I. There aren't many places to, whatever your version of a 10 is, you know, be it, do it, live it, have that be your full, authentic expression.
Amen. See you.